Hello, golf world, and welcome to another edition of the Cover One Golf Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Quinn, joined tonight by my co-host, the handsome, although a little chilly tonight, Nate Geary. And Nate, we have a special guest tonight. I got a text because he saw this talk about a slump and all the stuff I was going through. And Justin, I've worked with Justin over the winter in trying to get my game back up. But Justin Young of Justin Young Golf hit me up to say, hey, let's get you out of this and get into this therapy session with you. So what's going on, guys? Welcome to the show. How you guys doing?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I'm doing quite well, and I'm happy to help as much as I can.
Nate, how you doing, buddy?
Therapist Justin. I'm doing well. I played Country Club of Buffalo today. It was absolutely beautiful. Greens were rolling incredibly fast. And I beat Jesse Strubing today for the first time in my life.
No wonder he didn't respond to me. I was trying to get him on tonight before you texted me, Justin. I was trying to convince him. We've been trying to get him on the show. Now it makes sense why he didn't want to come on the show with you.
Yeah, he invited me, and I played with him, and we had a great. He struggled early. He hit a couple of left hooks. I mean, he plays 3 times a year, but I'm used to Jesse playing 3 times a year, walking out of the golf course and shooting a 74. Today he shot an 88. But in fairness, the greens were the pins. The pins were some of the meanest pins I've ever seen, just on spots that are really touchy. I putted probably some of the best putting, which is funny because I was putting the ball terribly on the practice green. Like, I was like, oh my God, I can't hit 1-footers right now. I'm like missing 1-footers. And then I went out and I think I had 27 putts. So a lot of them were because I was missing greens and putting chip shots to.
We were just talking about that. Yeah.
So I grinded out pars and bogeys all day. But the place is awesome. It's in awesome shape, and it's an original Donald Ross design. So it's got, if you've never played, it's got the volcano hole. I think it's number 6, number 5, number 6. Super difficult. My buddy played in the New York Mid End there a couple weeks ago and shot like a 9 on that hole. It's a bear. So super fun. And I haven't texted our mutual friend yet, Jesse and myself. We've got a mutual friend in Massachusetts that we play with when we go to Boston, and he's also a student of Jesse's. So this is like a true student, teacher role reversal. And I don't want to say I'm on cloud 9, but
But you're feeling good.
I'm on cloud 9.
Yeah, actually, conditions are fantastic right now in Western New York with all the rain we got over the last couple of weeks. Things got wet, but I don't know. Everywhere I'm playing, things are that primo August conditions where stuff's running fast. You're getting a little bit more out of it. Before we get too deep into this, Justin, could you tell the people sort of a little bit about yourself? I know Nate and I know you. Tell the people kind of what you're doing, what you're up to, and why you're here tonight to try to maybe help us.
Well, right now, currently, we're right in the thick of tournament season at Wanaka Country Club. So I am one of the assistant professionals at Wanaka. And we just completed our Ainsley Wilcox ladies member guest invitational. And so that's there today. That's basically the equivalent, if you've ever heard of this tournament, of like their version of the Ganson Depew. Which I know, Nate, I think you were probably signed up for it, I believe. So
next week, baby, practice round Wednesday.
Do you think you're ready for Wanaka again?
Yes,
okay.
I am. Yes, I am.
But I digress. So looking forward to have you back there, Nate. But so I've been teaching for about 4 years. Well, I've been teaching for about 3 years. I've been in the industry for about 4. I first started, ironically enough, Jesse was kind of the person who sort of like found me in a certain way, brought me into the business, and had seen some sort of potential for at least instruction in that sort of regard, and started off teaching at Harvest Hill, started to learn the operations of running a golf business, running a golf course, a golf facility through there. And after there, spent a year, just under a year, working for TrackMan as an outside sales rep. I kind of dipped my hand in the sales side of it, and just found out I'm not that type of guy in the end. So I'm not the sales, can you have your sale kind of a guy. So That only lasted about a year, and then after that, I got back into the like instructional and golf course side. That's where I joined up at Wanaka and started last year, so this will be my second season. And yeah, I don't have a life, so
Yeah, you work in golf, buddy. I mean, that's the life that you choose.
Well, real too, I gotta ask you because Nate was just talking about Jesse, and last time I talked to Jesse, I was like, "Oh, have you been out?" And he's like, "Dude, I don't get to golf. Like, that's the problem of living and breathing and working in this environment. Is like I'm setting up stuff so other people can golf. Is that your life right now during the season? Is less golf, or how you do? I know last time we talked in the winter, you weren't golfing as much because of how busy things were. How's your season been this year? You getting out? You able to play a little bit?
no. I'm getting out occasionally. Like I'll get out a few times with members at the club. Get out on a couple Mondays that we have off sparingly, and just in general, probably only gotten out maybe a total of probably 9 or 10 rounds so far. It's just about as difficult to find time as I was mentioning before in the winter. With the winter being, the weather being the issue, but also just like simulator golf too, not having a good chance to do that a lot. So I spend time working on my game, working on my swing. I feel like I feel a lot like Bryson in terms of the amount of golf I play versus when my head, like what I'm working with my home swing. But besides that, it's kind of a guessing game because I don't get a chance to bring it up to the course.
Yeah.
Besides that, I just have fun with it.
I'm playing a ton of golf, but I was just telling a guy that I was playing with a couple of weeks ago that within 1 week, you two fine gentlemen both invited me. Nate hits me up one day and was like, "Hey, on whatever day it was, on Tuesday or Thursday, or whatever, can you come play Craig Byrne with me?" And I have my kids during the day, and so I was like, "Oh, God, no, I can't." And then honestly, I think it was like 24 hours later, you hit me up, Justin. You're like, "What are you doing on Monday? You want to come play Wanaka with me?" And I was like, "Oh my God, this is the worst for me." Because like, yes, this is all I want to do is to play those nice courses with you guys. And it's not the worst because I love my kids and I'm doing that with my kids. But it was like, no, I'm not gonna be able to do it. But the guy that I was with was like, "Dude, if that ever happens again, just drop your kids off at my house and go play golf with those guys." So I've got the okay. Next time you guys hit me up for some really nice golf, I'll come hack up your nice country club worlds for a day. But I do appreciate you guys even reaching out for a hacker like me to come join you. It's a very cool opportunity, and I will get out and do that with you. But guys, I got to get down to it. The reason we're here, the reason I had it, we haven't done as many pods consistently lately because we've been out playing, we've been getting together, doing stuff, but I had to get some people together. It was almost like an emergency therapy session for me. I've been playing a lot of golf. Justin, you saw me this winter of trying to get my game in a spot of being a high handicapper. And my goal is to get down to a 14 index and to be a kind of average golfer. And I've surpassed that. And I'm playing good for me. I got down to a 9.5 here this year. And I'm really grinding. I know that's still average golf, but for me, it's like, that's a big grind to go from. I think I started the year at 17, 18 indexed, and to get it down under 10 feels crazy. And with the amount of rounds I'm playing, that there's some consistency to that. That all unraveled for me a little bit mentally over the weekend. We went out, a group of mine and I, and this isn't the first round that it's been bad. There's been a couple rounds that bled back into the 90s here for me. But then we went to Glen Oak this past weekend with my golf group, and I was explaining a little bit to Justin offline here. I barely broke 100. I shot a 98. It should have been a 110 the way I was playing, the way I was hitting the ball off the tee. My mental game totally just erupted on me, that's probably the thing outside of strokes gain and all the data that I collect. Probably the thing that I pride myself the most on is the ability to just like know that it's golf and I'm just happy to be out there. And I know that it's a hard game and I know there's ups and downs and I don't let one bad hole bleed into another. And I have a pretty strong mental game. And I got to tell you guys, like I kicked a putter head cover off the green at one point. I didn't throw any clubs or anything, but I threw a tee. That's not like me. Like I took the tee and tossed it. Like it was, I was unraveling a little bit throughout the day. And Glen Oak's no easy course. It's a tough course for a guy like me. But the course didn't beat me. I beat myself. My swing beat me. My mental beat me. And so I'll talk about it a little bit here. I'm going to pull up I got my Arcos here. So stats wise, if I compare to my 10 index, which I'm right around, I'm at a 9.5. So if I'm comparing to a 10 index, for those that don't know, I like to track and monitor my strokes gained through Arcos, which I suggest everybody do. I was negative 7.2 off the tee driving the ball.
Wow.
I was negative 5.9 on approach. Short game, I was negative 1.7, and putting, I was negative 0.6. But again, Nate, to kind of your point, if my driving and approach are so bad, that means I'm probably pretty close when I'm getting to the green. And so I'm chipping up a little closer. My putting should be better. I shouldn't be bleeding out everywhere. But I was negative 15.4 strokes overall for the day. My average driving distance was 200 yards. It was bad off the tee. I was struggling to get the ball in the air really at times, and I don't know what was going on. Something felt real funky in my backswing, and that bled into me over swinging to try to get the ball up in the air, and that just spiraled. That was wayward. That was not a good decision. That's like throwing fuel onto a fire. And so I just want to, like, one, do you guys get these rounds as good lower index players? Because I know, like, I've got some leeway as a 10 to 14 index player. I've got some leeway where I can have some double bogey on the scorecard, where I know you guys as lower index players, you're talking about like 1 or 2 shots difference in strokes gained ruins your round. But like, do you have these kind of rounds where you just feel like, man, something is just broken in my game and this is spiraling out of control?
Well,
Yes.
Justin, go ahead.
That it's just as common. It just might be our definition of worse, might be just a little bit different. But besides that, trust me, we struggle just as much because we hold ourselves to a certain expectation, and this game is difficult. So it's very easy for me to, throw an 83 out there. And especially since I'm always tinkering with my swing, I've never grown into a full swing yet. I'm still developing, if that makes sense. After 3 years of all this, I'm changing everything every little couple 2 weeks. As a result,
Agreed.
I'm never gonna score a lot in the range that I should be. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna have these slumps, and it's gonna come at times when you don't want them, of course.
Yeah,
So,
I don't
I
want, like, I don't, I go out and play with a lot of guys. I have multiple golf groups, but this specific golf group, like, they see me scoring a certain way, and then I get with them and I freaking almost go over 100, and they're like, man, this guy's lying on his scores. Like, there's no way this guy's shooting 39s when he's putting up 49s in front of us. And so, yeah, they don't come at the times you want them to come, which I think also compounds it, right? Because then you get a little bit of performance anxiety, and I think that bleeds into game. But Nate, what about you? I know I know you and I talked a little bit, but yours was more health related. I felt like when you were going through the slump.
Yeah, it's still tough because you're the shots that you're capable of making, and you're not making them, and you can't quite figure out why. Like today, 2 days ago at Craigburn when I played, I probably had one of the best driving rounds that I've had all year. I was averaging about 280, 285 off the tee, and when you're playing a course like that, you are going from driver to gap wedge or driver to choke down 56, and the game starts to slow down a little bit more, and then you can start focusing on hitting those shots. And then today I probably at CCB, I probably hit my 4-iron more times than I've hit it all year in a round, and I definitely gained strokes with my 4-iron today. I had a 220-yard 4-iron shot off the green today. I had 2 where I topped a 5-wood and hit it another 220 and gave myself a 50-yard chip where I got up and down and parred the hole, right? So it's just like sometimes you're going to go fluctuate from round to round. What I have been doing more so this year than, especially now that I'm post injury, and I feel as close to about 100% as I have been health wise for a while. Is starting to I make a lot of dumb mistakes on the course, lapses of focus. I tend to play, this sounds funny, I tend to play significantly better when I've had a few drinks, when I've had
My buddy plays
4
that game.
beers, 3 or 4 cocktails. I loosen up. I'm less focused on the score, and I'm more focused on the process of my swing. But I get way more handsy. I get way more aggressive, and I swing way freer when I'm drinking or when I'm on the driving range. You don't have the pressure of scoring on the driving range. You don't have the pressure of out of bounds to your right, or if I draw the ball here, or there's a trap that's at a carry distance, and I know that if I go in that trap, I'm not going to hit par, or I'm not going to be able to go for a birdie, things like that. So what I've been doing is, at Craigburn the other day when I played well, off the tee at least, was
one high noon every 3 holes.
No, I didn't drink. I didn't drink. Not until the second half of the round.
There you go.
But what I'm trying to do now is bring over that driving range mentality, where you work so much on your swing. You have, even though, as to Justin's point, I tweak and change my swing almost every day in some sort of way. I'll go from, bringing back the club at a certain point to changing it the next day because I'm striking the ball better. I do this with my driver a lot, and I'm always tweaking my driver because the things that I try to repeat from the previous round don't repeat. So what do? You have to change on the fly, whether that's at the driving range or on the golf course. But it's bringing that freedom, not necessarily caring about the result, but thinking more about what you're doing in your swing and the confidence that you have in your swing. And as I think anyone that's ever played golf, a lot of the game is confidence. And you can tell yourself you're confident all you want. But if your swing thoughts are out of bounds is left, there's an overhanging tree that could hit if I don't do this. And instead of just thinking about what you do on the driving range, or sometimes what you're not doing, which is really thinking at all. So that's what I've been starting to focus on lately. But for you, Aaron, it's like when you go through these sort of slumps playing golf, it's like at that time more than ever, I think it's super important you find something that you can lean on, right? I mean, hey, you know what? I'm still good on the greens. So listen, I might be a train wreck off the tee, but just get me to the green, get me there so that I can 2-putt, I can 1-putt. For me, it's okay if I'm not hitting greens in regulation. That means that day I'm not going to score. But what I know I am capable of doing is scrambling and saving par. If I'm in a greenside bunker, I know it's my safe space. I know that I'm going to be able to make good contact, get the ball out, and give myself a chance to make a par on the play. So yeah, I think it's like find that thing that you can always lean on. For me, it's my chipping, it's my short game. I've always got that to lean back. It's the only plus strokes gained metric that I have on Arcos right now. It's plus 1.7. That's compared to a scratch golfer. So it's a very strong part of my game. It's what keeps me a single digit handicap. But it's one thing that as you keep playing, Aaron, you're just going to find that one thing you do better than everything else. And then you start practicing that more and you start focusing on that more, so that when these moments, when these weeks, sometimes a month hit you, it's like, I'm going to keep my scores under 90 because I know I'm going to do this thing really, really well.
So actually, I want to kick that to you, Justin, because you kind of said something similar when we were offline. My strokes gained putting is probably my strength right now of the season. And my friend even said that. We played with one guy and he was like a +3 for the day. He's a very good golfer. I think he'd play well with you guys. And he was like, dude, you're too good of a putter to have these kinds of days consistently. Like you're better than all these other guys on the green, and you just got to get there. You're not going to have these days where you're not getting there as often as you are. And so you just like lean into that. But for me, and maybe I'm getting too kind of caught up in the data. I go through after my round, I look at the round and I look at my full game, and I'm spending the majority of my time. I didn't play out well at Glen Oak because the amount of time I'm spending is on the things that I'm deficient at, which is mostly approach game, that like 150 yard shot approach game, even to 100 yards about. I'm losing the most strokes. That's what I'm trying to work on to get a little bit better there and get more green in regulation. So I spend quite a bit of time on ball striking and trying to be a better ball striker, and even off the tee trying to do that. But are you thinking, from what Nate's saying, and you kind of said to me too, should I lean more into and make sure that I'm getting a good amount of practice time in the things that I'm actually doing well at and getting good at, so that I can lean into that a little bit more?
Yeah, it's a balancing act to begin with. I mean, absolutely, you should definitely be putting a good amount of time focusing on your strengths and building upon those. Because you don't want to lose them as strengths. You want to still maintain them at the very minimum while you're working on your weaknesses. But obviously, you can't just focus on your strengths alone as well. You do need to focus on your weak parts of your game to at least eliminate the really bad holes, the bad rounds by doing so. But I definitely think that even if short game is not your best part of your game, and this is to not just you, Aaron, this is just to everyone listening in terms of amateur golfers. Even if short game is not your best part of your game, or even if it's not your worst part of your game, if it's just in the middle, I would still focus a majority of practice on short game around the green. And that includes putting, but a lot of it being that 100 yards in type scenario where you're hitting, not a full wedge. You're hitting your 3/4 half wedge shots. Those more finesse and feel shots. I mean, these are shots that combined roughly 60% of your shots in your round are from that 100-yard in mark. So if you can get good there, or at least competent, it can save a bad round, like Nate says, and it can maybe help you get at least mitigate a slump, and maybe the low end of that slump can be a little bit higher. The floor can kind of rise up a little bit, and eventually you'll make it back up to where you were at before.
Justin, I do love the idea of practicing more 3/4 swing. This is one mental error that I make consistently is, and the frustrating part about the mistake that I make consistently is after I make the mistake, I tell myself I know better, and it's to lay off of clubs. So, hey, it's a 155-yard shot, but it's uphill and I'm right between clubs, and I could try to really step on a 9, or I can hold off on an 8. And instead of taking 3/4 swing, but swinging through and still swinging with the same pace that I normally would, I swing a full swing back and I try to hit the ball 80%. And you just lose you don't strike the ball as well, you won't compress the ball, and it's not going to go where you want it to go. And every time I make that mistake, I say to myself, like, why am I doing it? I know better. Practicing those 3/4 shots. Do you know what else I practice on the range all the time, especially like before a tournament? Like, I'll spend 10 shots, 15 shots with my 4-iron, focusing on getting like 145 to 150 yard punch shot into a specific window. Because a lot of the courses around here, if you're off of greens, you're going to have an overhang. You're going to be behind a tree. You're going to have to get through an alley. That at Cloverbank, where I belong, I mean, that's almost every hole. If you miss, you are going to be having punch shots that, if you're going to maintain par and you're going to keep your scores low, you've got to have that shot in your bag, and it's got to be a strength of yours. But most people walk out onto the course, and when was the last time anyone's practiced taking a punch shot that you need to draw, or you need to peel, or you need to try to cut and have it go 150 yards when people are like, hey, I'm trying to hit my 4-iron as far as possible. The same can be said for all your clubs. Practicing those 3/4 swings, those half swings. I don't do it enough, and I know for sure more people should definitely be doing that.
I definitely agree
100%.
on the
seriously.
Those 3/4 ones for us, like lower or higher scoring amateurs. This is a point of contention I talk about with my friend all the time, where he's like, just hit that shot. And I don't think enough of us work on it. And I don't think there's enough confidence to go back to the idea of having the confidence. And so I see a lot of, and I'm guilty of this too, where you're not practicing enough. And then you get out on the course and you are in between clubs and you need a 3/4 shot. and you hesitate and you can't do like, you have to
Yep.
hit it still with
Decel.
confidence and speed. You decelerate and then you come up short. And then I did it tonight I played at Delaware and got a little confidence back. I will talk about that in a minute. I did get a little bit of confidence back today and talking about how to battle through some of this.
You hit the old classic slump buster, Delaware, didn't you?
Dude, I did. You need a little confidence. It's like
gotta go to the slump buster every once in a while.
Yeah, man, you need it, man. But I had a shot where it was like the exact distance of my 58, and I'm money with a full swing, or on like a 3/4 swing on my 58. I do practice it quite a bit, and for some reason, I just decelerated it and hit it like half the distance, and I ended up bogeying the hole. It should have been a hole I scored on. Like I should have been right there in position, and it just bled through. Again, it didn't get out of control like things did at Glen Oak, but it's just one of those things where not having enough confidence. But Nate, to your point, you're talking about all 150 yards and cutting shots. But even for us, not as good of golfers, those punch shots of just even getting out of the situation is something that like it doesn't have to go 140 yards, but you have to be able to clear out of that and get into a good shot, which is maybe it's only 50, 60 yards to get out into the middle of the fairway, but getting a smart shot. I see too many of us type of golfers hitting in those situations and smacking it into a tree, or not even getting it. Like you try to punch it out and you get it to the edge of, and you're still in that situation where it's taking you 2 strokes to get out. And that's just as bad as going out of bounds at that point. Like you're not in a good position. And so practicing those situations where you can feel confident, that's actually a shot. I played at Kaz a couple weeks ago, and they have very low hanging trees all over Kaz. And I was pretty erratic with the driver, so I ended up in a bunch of it. And I'm pulling out my hybrid and stepping into it. And I felt like I can get out of all these situations because that is something I kind of practice to punch out. Where the guys I was playing with were really struggling. They were putting the ball too high in the air and hitting branches and not getting out and through that stuff. And to your point, I do think you need to, those are shots that we probably all don't work on enough, is the situational type shots where I'll just getting out there swinging full swing and like, oh yeah, I can hit my driver X amount of yards and over again. But how often are you really in those situations to do that type of thing? So I want to transition here. So I get out of that round. I'm pissed. I was also pissed at my friends, which really made it bad because one, scoring's a little loose in my group. And so when I'm struggling and then like I see people that are also probably struggling or playing worse than me, but their scoring's like the same as me, that got in my head, and that drove me a little bit nuts. And then we started arguing with each other. And so this whole round got out of hand. And so I'm going through, but I think you guys both know me. My favorite part of golf isn't even the play of golf. It's the process and the grind of, I love practicing. I love getting out there and putting some stuff together. And so I took this as an opportunity of like, I got to figure out what happened and I got to attack it. And I don't know if that's good. I've talked to a few people that are like, sometimes when you hit something like this, it's a step away from the game. It's like, you just got to step away, take a break. You're going at it too hard. Me, I kind of go the opposite, and I went right at it. I started attacking what was feeling weird in my backswing. I was taking some videos. I sent them to Jesse. I was looking at some stuff, trying to get that back to where it felt comfortable. I thought I did a pretty good job of that. And then I went to Sheridan and really started working on ball striking, even just wedges, building on my strengths, getting on the green, working on putting. I hit the range today. Actually, we had first tee. My kids are in first tee and I'm an instructor there. I don't know if you guys know Anthony. He's one of the coaches over there. We were working a little bit, and I actually, for the first time this year, I tweaked my driver a little bit. I bumped it up a degree. So I was at like a 8.5 degree loft on my driver. And so I'm low and I was struggling with trajectory. So I bumped it up a half a degree, and I think something helped. So I went to Delaware today with a buddy, and Nate, to your point, Delaware is a great place if you need a boost in confidence or you're just trying to work on stuff, right? Because you're not going to get in trouble at Delaware. So if you're just trying to, I'm struggling off the tee, I need a place where I can go that isn't a driving range, but it gives me some real life spots to go hit and aim. I think Delaware is actually a great spot for this. It's like if you're in a slump as a single young man and you gotta get back on it. Sometimes you gotta go to the bar and hit on a 4, right? Like just to get your confidence back up.
Listen, I was going to say it, but I'm glad you did so that,
Yeah.
you know, when people get upset, they'll be upset with you.
I'm
about that
married,
comment.
so as long as it doesn't upset my wife, I don't care. But it's true though. Like you got to get your confidence back, and this was perfect situation for me today. So I got back out there, I dialed up my driver. I was feeling okay at the range, but still not great. Like I was still having some of these misses. We got going, and regardless of the course, I was putting the ball right down the middle. So for me, like I said, I was averaging 200 yards. Today I was averaging 245. I had a few like 270 drives right up the middle. I almost reached the green on a couple of the shorter par fours. Like great way to just add in some of that confidence. Approach game was okay, but putting was pretty solid. Short game was solid. I went out there and had a pretty decent round. And I'm not going to say I'm out of the slump, but confidence feels back in that. Yeah, it's Delaware, and no, there wasn't a lot of trouble to get to, but I hit 7 out of 7 fairways, and it was right down the middle, and I was getting distance that's a little bit above my average distance, and so that is on top of all the work and the grinding and the swinging and all that stuff. Going out and playing a course that isn't going to challenge you all that much is, I thought, maybe a really great way to get some of this confidence back.
Sign me up.
Yeah, man. I agree. It's tough too because you know my club is pretty difficult. We had our member guest over the weekend, and I played pretty good. Over 3 days, I went 77, 80, 78. And in a tournament where you're largely putting everything out, you're trying to get points high and low. So, you know, if you have a push, that second score matters. So guys are finishing out holes. I played all week. I drank all week, and Sunday morning came rolling around, and I was supposed to play at 9:30, which is early considering I was out till 3 a.m. the night before. Walked onto the first tee, didn't take a swing at the driving range. Started par, birdie, birdie, par, and at Cloverbank to start 2 under through 4 is very, very good because it is usually the members there. It's like if you're 2 over through 3, you feel like you've made it through the hard part, and now you can go actually play a little golf. And I got to 17 at even, and all of a sudden, my head started rolling like, hey, I could. 17 is not exactly birdieable, but let's par this. Let's get to 18. Let's birdie 18. Let's shoot a 71 and go
have a round, have a day.
Drink my face off at the bar like I got a hole in one. But I doubled 17 and then bogeyed 18 and shot a 75. And it's just a normal, like that's a good day. But it just felt like it could have been a really good day. And it's just so funny how it goes when I get to my round an hour before, and I got my routine where I grab a cocktail, go to the short game area, hit a specific, I go from, gap 9, 7, 4, and then hit my hybrid 5-wood and driver, and then go putt for 5-10 minutes. All of that, and just for me to walk out there hungover, unstretched, and play one of the best rounds I've played all year is sort of poetic when you think about it.
That's kind of golf. It's very golfish.
It's so golfish.
Yeah. But Justin, what about, like, I mean, I know you're not getting out and playing as much golf lately, but in a slump, like, is that the right way to approach it, is to attack it, grinding work, and then like do something like go to a course that maybe doesn't present the type of challenges? Or would you just stay at Wanaka and figure it out until you figure it out?
So I think it depends on the type of slump, whether I would attack it in a grinding fashion versus maybe taking a step back. And that might be literally on a case by case basis. If it's more stress related and I'm just in my own head, then maybe it is a good idea to step back for like a week or two and just not take a swing with anything. But at the same time,
that sounds so terrible, though.
I know
this time of year, but I get it. Yeah,
but it's so easy to do at the same time. But then there's going to be situations where it's maybe more mechanical, and you're just forgetting something that you've been working on for the past like 3 months. you're not
so
quite sure
easy
what
to
it
forget
is.
about one detail in a swing. It's just so easy.
It's all it takes. And so then in that case, I think taking a grinding approach absolutely can be a way to go about it, especially if you have the time and you're willing to devote a lot of time and effort into the game of golf. And by all means, you learn a lot about yourself playing the game of golf, whether it be the amount of hours you spend practicing, your mental aspect on the course, your mental fortitude. You learn a lot about yourself. You get to learn a lot about your friends, which is also another cool thing. But at the same time, like you mentioned, I think it is a good idea to maybe try an easier course, or at the very least, don't be afraid to bump up a tee if you're
Yeah.
maybe reluctant to, if you're like, at a country club, for example, and you're a member, and you're maybe a little less reluctant to go elsewhere, or it's just not quite, fit your schedule or whatever the reason may be. Don't be afraid to hit off the whites that day, or for a few days in a row. There's no shame in it. And if it makes you feel more confident, maybe literally is just driver. So you literally hit off of the whites so that you can put driver away and just play the rest of your game. And that's a confidence boost because you're not being forced to hit those shots that you're having difficulty with. So it really depends, I think, on a case by case, but case by case, and whatever it depends on, whether it be mental, psychological, or mechanical.
Yeah, mine
I
seemed to
think
be
seeking professional help is definitely a good route to go, whether it be if you have a friend and just a little bit of advice. If it's more mental, and then maybe just, hey, maybe you're better off taking a break or focus on this, or spending the time and effort to find an instructor and get evaluated, or maybe what you need to work on and take a short game lesson or take a driving lesson, stuff like that. So, it definitely all depends.
Yeah, I've actually got a great group support system now in golf between Nate, yourself, Jesse. I lean on him quite a bit. David Tilton is another one. A couple of guys in my golf group. Sometimes though, it can be a little bit too much voices. Like if you're going to too many people and getting too many tidbits of advice and things like that. So
Or
you also,
YouTube.
yeah, I actually stay away from YouTube. I don't do it anymore. I know enough about the game of golf and what I'm supposed to do, that I don't need to go to YouTube for those fixes. I'd rather, like I say, go to you or go to Jesse or somebody that I can actually work with and send a video to. And like, yeah, you are doing that stuff right, but you just got to time this up, whatever it is. But for me, like those, I do think it started mechanical, but it bled into the mental aspect of the game. And it was almost a borderline of like, yeah, dude, just step away for a couple of weeks and take this off. It wasn't shanks. Like I still can hit the ball. I can still do some stuff. Which, by the way, poor David Tilton right now, I know he's struggling with some shanks. I was hoping to have him on here tonight because he's honestly like, talked to me. He's like, dude, I think I just need to get away for like 2 weeks and not play golf and just put my clubs away. But I actually had opposite. So I was at First Tee today and there was a kid who plays in tournaments and we were talking. You guys know I'm a big like data, strokes gained, all this like that approach to golf course management. And he's like, I haven't hit my driver in weeks. Like I'm just playing 5 wood, or like I'm not even. And he's like, I just keep it in the bag. And my advice to him, I was like, dude, I'm not a very good golfer, but I know a lot about golf, and I know that like what you need to do to break through to where where you're talking about that you're struggling with, and you need to get the ball longer off the tee. Like I was like, when you are hitting your driver well, how much yardage are you gaining? He's like, it's probably like 70-yard difference. I was like, dude, that's a lot of strokes gained over 18 holes, over 5 rounds, whatever it is. It's like you got to grind through this driver problem you're having. Like that was my advice. I was like, dude, you got to get out there and you got to hit that driver. Like I know you're not confident with it now, but you got to get that confidence back. Is that bad advice for me to like be giving a young amateur? Is like, dude, you can't just put that club away. You got to find a way to get that club working for you. It's not like, I think you can get away with, I'm not going to hit a 3-wood, right? Like I don't carry a 3-wood anymore because I can't hit it, but I can kind of work around that. I don't think you could do that with driver.
I think you definitely need to be able to hit driver to even just have fun playing golf, let alone just be able to score in a competent level. I want to backtrack a little bit. Did you say that he hits his driver 70 more yards than his 5-wood?
That's what he told me.
Okay.
What
So
people,
even
yeah,
I'm not saying that's not true or it is true, but let's assume that it is true. He should definitely be at least attempting to hit driver off the tee.
all the
Um,
time. Well,
Short
on
of
the
not
level.
being able to keep it in play at all, like every shot is dispersed into the OB, into water, and you're not be able to get anything in play. Short of that, then yeah, try to hit driver as often as you can. It's a longer club. It is thus harder to hit in that sense, but you get a large face. You can tee it up, and because of that, sometimes just taking a little bit off of your driver swing is more than enough to make up for
Yeah, because
distance
even if
loss
he's
that you
getting
think you're
40
getting.
yards more, right? Like even if
Exactly.
he's pulling back on that driver a little bit and it's 30 to 40 yards more, the strokes gained every
Exactly.
10 yards that you get is substantial.
Yeah, and to add to the driver conversation, listen, I went through this. I've gone through this through phases where I can't hit my driver. I took the 3-wood out of my bag because at times I was hitting my 3-wood further than I was hitting my driver, and
You leaned into it, didn't you?
on top of that, what's the point of having 2 clubs in your bag that could nearly go the same distance? So this year I went from a 3-wood to a 5-wood. That 5-wood for me goes about 255. I can hit it a little bit further if it's like perfectly hit and stepped on. But I go through bouts where it's the most lethal club in my bag and I pull it a lot.
I gotta go with
Um,
5-wood.
it can be really lethal for me. And then there's other times where I top it a lot, which is what I did twice today. And I wanted to pull it out all day because I just wasn't hitting my driver great. And a lot of these courses that, listen, the 250-yard drive, 255-yard drive for most people is like a good enough distance to be playing with a 8-iron, 7-iron in. But some of these shorter par fours, like I don't necessarily, especially a course like CCB, you got to kind of plot around. You got to worry about a ton of sand and fairways. I want to hit 5-wood, but if I can't hit it, I just stick with the driver and deal with the dispersion as Justin said. So, and just try to make up for it with some good iron shots, which isn't always hard or isn't always easy.
Also, don't discredit a 250-yard drive. That is in a much above average,
That's what I'm
very good
saying.
drive,
Yeah.
especially in Western New York. Like we don't deal with super long courses. A lot of reachable, like not reachable, but a lot of par fours that get you in a really nice spot if you're 250 yards off the tee. So yeah, that's a good place to be. But I know that your distance gets much deeper than that. But before we transition out of this topic, I am going into this episode ramping up for it. I wasn't in a good headspace. I'm feeling much better in going out and getting a little confidence back. I'm hoping to sneak back out here in the next few days. I've got a little bit going on, so I probably won't get back out here for the week. But I'm hoping to take this confidence in and fully break out of a slump. I don't feel like I'm totally out of the woods yet. I got to go get back into a decent course and give it a shot and get out there and try it. But I feel like I might be on the other end of it and perching my way out of it. But is there any other advice for whether you're in a slump or you're just like, another thing before I got into my slump is I play Brighton a lot. And no matter if I was playing the front or back, I sometimes can only get 9 in. I'm stuck at 40s and 80. And so like in addition to slumps is like breaking through seems to be something in golf that for me is a super struggle. Like to your point, Nate, of like doubling and bogeying that final hole. Like I've had rounds at Brighton where it's like, one, I don't even check scores anymore until I'm done. But if I do, it's like, dude, I'm about to have myself a round. Like I'm gonna do it, and then 9 or 8 and 9 is just like double. It's like, god damn it, and I'm just stuck at 40. Like there's nothing I can do to get past it. Sort of the same idea of a slump. Like what would be additional recommendations on stuff like that? Like just keep grinding through. Are you making changes, leaning into some of the proficiencies that you have? Where are you guys at with that?
I
Nate,
try
I'll
not
let
to
you take
make
this one first.
Yeah, I try not to make a lot of changes mid-round. I think honestly, I do a poor job of scoreboard watching. I do a lot of scoreboard watching, and then I start to think a lot about like 3 or 4 holes ahead, and then I gotta just have to have Sean McDermott and Josh Allen say to me, it's the most important game because it's the next game, right? I gotta start thinking about that, not even just from holes, but from shots. this is the most important shot of the round right here, because it's the next shot and the next shot. So mindset and not trying to change stuff mid-round. That's when people really start to see the wheels fall off, is when you're starting to make tweaks. I'm going to close the face, or I'm going to try to bring my club back flatter. I'm going to stand, try to hold off the weight more so on my back foot. Just like trying to make tweaks mid-round are for people that don't spend a lot of time in the driving range, which I think all people should spend more time on the driving range if they do it right. I mean, you can go on the driving range and not have it translate at all, but reps for reps, I will disagree with some people that say, you can have range time that isn't productive. I still think that reps are reps, and the more times you can feel the ball hit the center of the face, the more times you're going to feel confident when you're out in the course.
Even if your swing's kind of janky, finding a way to hit the center. Yeah.
And the more reps you get with your swing, in my opinion, the better.
Feedback is always good feedback. Whether it's, we could talk about, about efficiency on the range, but we don't need to necessarily dive that deep. But I agree, like reps are reps. I don't think you can have an completely unproductive range session, but you can definitely be more efficient. As far as like breaking, I think first it starts with like being honest and being easy on yourself. Like, golf is hard. It's really hard. Yeah. I mean, there's some different studies that have slightly different numbers, but they all sort of tell like the same story. Like, we're talking like just over about half of golfers break 100 on their average score. And then it's only
not on Twitter. Everybody's shooting.
Well, right.
On Twitter.
Yeah. We're talking about actual real studies with real data, whether it's Arcos or other sort of like, analytical collection data. So like a quarter only shoot in the 80s or better, and only 5% on the average shoot like in the 70s, or like, single digit handicappers, 5%.
Yeah.
So I think first just giving yourself a break, and, not being hard on yourself, but, and I guess making it fun, I think, is a big thing. I mean, I'm an instructor. I can talk about the mechanics and talk about working on your swing or working on mental keys or in around that, are good for you and whatnot. But if you don't make it fun, if you start having a bad time out there, you're never going to break whatever goal you're trying to set for yourself, whether it's 80, 90, 100, because you're going to eventually not want to keep doing it. So I think that's first and foremost. And then you laid it out perfectly, Aaron, for yourself. Like, you have a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today and the stuff that you've been kind of highlighting about your thought process is, I think, spot on. Like, I think trusting the process, pun not intended, but, we're all Bills fans here. So focusing more on basically the process versus the results. If you're going through a slump, focusing on just your swing, your game, and, whatever you're working on to improve whatever faults you're trying to work through. I think focusing on that versus the resulting shot, because if you're doing something different, you're likely going to get worse before you get better. And so it's a game of trust, where you just kind of have to grind through it, unfortunately. So I do think your kind of angle and the way you're kind of tackling this is, I think, for the most part, spot on.
All right. Well, I'm going to come back to you guys. If I dip back into a slump, I'm bringing you guys back on and telling you I did it all wrong and things have gone haywire. It's going to be fun. I'm traveling back to Maine here for a couple of weeks and playing the course that I played high school golf. I was a high school golfer, and the course, our home course, I'll be playing that. And then there's a couple other courses that I'm going to hit up. So that's always wonky. And I think actually David Tilton frames this really well for me of like, that's one of the issues I have as a golfer that does get around a little bit is when you travel, you should probably expect to score a little bit different, especially if you're playing a course for the first time or it's the first time in a long time and you're not familiar with it. Where when I go to Brighton, I know where to miss. I know where to hit, like I know what to avoid, which I'm sure you guys feel similar at your clubs and stuff like that. Like you kind of have a good feel for where to be. But that score isn't always the indicator of good golf. Like when I go on my trip, I'm not going to worry about score as much as like, was I striking the ball well? Like, was I putting, like doing those things well? And if the score doesn't match how I was playing, that's okay. It's a new course. I'm traveling. I'm playing different golf than I'm used to. So there's a little bit of that baked into it as well, that it's not all score based. And even though I'm trying to hit these goals and index is associated to scores and everything in golf sort of does come back to scores, you can still have a good round and not score that well. right? Like, and that's okay as long as you're striking the ball well, and to what you're saying, sticking to the things that you know how to do. We are going to segue into a little bit of pro golf talk. Justin, I don't know if you want to hang out for this. You're welcome to. That's up to you here. But we're going to talk a little bit Scottie Scheffler versus Xander Schauffele a little bit here, because we're ramping towards the end of the season of the PGA here. Well, yeah, Justin, do you want to tell anyone where, before you head out, where they can find you, how they can get in touch with you if people are needing lessons? I'm a huge advocate. This was an argument we had on the course actually this week. Was I think everyone, no matter your skill level, should be doing regular maintenance with an instructor that you trust. So how do people get in touch with you if they're interested in something like that?
You can email me if you'd like. You can find me at the letter J, Young, so JYOUNG.golfinstruction@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Justin Golf right there. And you can just direct message me right there as well. And I'm also I'm located on the PGA Coach app, which is actually a good tool that I do recommend if you're leaving. And I'm not just talking about myself. If you're looking for an instructor and you're trying to find one that's best for your game or best for your learning style or your personality, go to pga.coach and search for instructors in the Western New York section. They'll be like, guys will have bios, maybe some videos and some examples of like their style and their credentials. So it's a great way to find an instructor, even if you don't land on me, for example, but I'm totally fine with that. Whatever, if you just can find an instructor that is best for you, I'm happy. The fact that, like you said, everybody should at least once get a lesson, get evaluated, and at least maybe get themselves on the right track for their best improvement for their game.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on and hope this is more a regular thing. Well, we'd love to have you on more often and getting your takes.
Would love to. I would say probably in the fall. Probably
Perfect.
more often in the fall. Yep.
Perfect. In this winter, I guarantee you I'll see you at the Dome quite a bit, and we'll be working on our
100%.
games there. All right, man.
Justin's like, hopefully sometime in 2026, guys.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to see
All right,
you,
Justin.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you, man. All right, Nathan.
What up, dog?
For those listening to the podcast, they will not be able to see that this is a dead giveaway for me. But those watching will know exactly where I stand on this conversation that's been going on online as to who's really having the better season between Xander Schauffele and Scottie Scheffler. A lot was made early on in the season of Scottie having the best season we have seen since Tiger Woods was in his prime. And I think some people conflated that to like he's as good as Tiger in his prime, and nobody. This is like not even close what Tiger was able to do. He's got so far to go to get there. But in terms of strokes gained, in terms of even winning early this year, that was the thing against Scottie, was he wasn't stacking up wins. He has now done that this year, and they're not all majors, but he was winning at a great clip. He and Nelly Korda were just like dominating the game there.
Nelly lost her game, by the way, a little bit.
Yeah. So. She has it there towards the end. But then out of nowhere, and this was something I said on this show, Xander Schauffele was like, second place, like right there. And I was like, dude, he's the Buffalo Bills of the PGA. Like he's right there and he can't win. And then all of a sudden pulls off two majors. And this kind of probably comes down to a conversation of like, majors are legacy builders. And so those stand out more in the career picture. But Scottie Scheffler's still a better golfer. He still had a better season, right? Like, where are you standing on this?
I stand in the area that this is one of my least favorite things we do in sports is have to pick a side, have to be right or left, black or white. You gotta have like one side to this. I think that there's a world where right now, golf is going through its annual rollover of top players in the world. This time last year, rewind it 16 months. What were we talking about 16 months ago? Scottie Scheffler was there, right? But it was John Rahm. It was John Rahm. It's Cam Smith. We're talking about these guys as the best players in the world. And Scheffler has maintained this level of consistency. And I think maybe what we do with Scottie Scheffler is Scottie Scheffler has been placed on a different tier of golfer now. So you're looking at Scottie Scheffler's season and saying, well, one major, had a lot of wins, one major. The expectation for Scottie's higher. Xander, you're the new underdog. You had the best season because you did things that you hadn't been able to do over the course of your career. You got over the hump, you reached the pinnacle, and then and frankly, doing it at Valhalla is one thing where it was a birdie fest and he's had more birdies than everybody else. This, I think the Open was probably the most difficult conditions in a major championship.
And he chased it down. It wasn't like he coasted to a win like we've seen Rory do.
Brian Harman do last year. Like Harman just kind of ran away with it on Sunday. I think both of them are having incredible seasons. I think they're the two best players in the world right there with Bryson right now. And I think that the question that I will have is now, is there an expectation for Xander Schauffele where we're going to look at the same way a year from now, like we look at Scottie Scheffler, which is, hey, you're winning a lot of tournaments, but we judge you on your majors, just like you're judged, Josh Allen's judged on how many Super Bowls he's going to win by the end of his career. That will be how people judge him. Right, wrong, fair, unjust. That is sports. You may not like it, but I mean that's where we are. So for me, I still think Scottie Scheffler is the best player in the world, but I think it's very obvious to me that Xander Schauffele's game travels. It can play. He's a links guy. He can play in conditions. He can grind it out when the winning score is 7-8 under, and he can light it up when the score is -20. To me, Scottie has not shown the ability. He has not really played well over 4 rounds on link style golf courses.
Sure.
Xander has now done that and has obviously won the Open Championship. So next year is going to be really exciting. I know you mentioned the Tiger comparison. I've been clinging to. I get hooked on these golfers, right? And I start to root for them, and then you start to realize how difficult golf is. Because 3 years ago we were talking about Colin Morikawa. Is he the next big? Victor Hovland, Will Zalatoris. Holy shit, Will Zalatoris is going to be the next major winner. There's no doubt about it. And you just what it does, what pro golf does. Like this is show you just how difficult it is to be consistent when there's so many other great players in the world. But just with your game, and Nelly Court is a great example. I mean, she looked like she had won 4 straight tournaments at one point and then missed 2 straight cuts, and was not, playing well at all. So long story short, I think both players are great. I think they both had uniquely great seasons. But in terms of historical context, neither of them had the type of season that warrants, I think, this much conversation. I think it's a lot recency bias because Tiger Woods used to have these seasons on the reg.
Yeah, it's tough because I don't like are other quarterbacks not as good as Mahomes because of what he does. Like, I do think Scottie Scheffler, what he's doing is the second best run of dominance that I've seen to Tiger. It's not on the level. But to your point, like, I've seen so many golfers get into that number 2 spot and then fade away. We saw Hovland at the end of last year getting to number 2, and now like the dude can't stay consistent. Like, he made this big swing change. He's all over the place. He's missing cuts. He comes back up for a little bit of air, and then he's gone again. John Rahm, although he showed out pretty well, got a top 10 at the Open. We've seen him fall off from being number 2 even recently. Schauffele's gotten into this number 2 role, but he's new to this top 5 here, and Scheffler's been maintaining it. He hasn't been winning at the clips that people expected him to be, but he's been the number 1 golfer for 2.5 years, 3 years now, and I think maintaining that type of level is so hard in golf, and people will discredit it and say, well, they know the fields are worse. I push back on that pretty hard, to be honest. Like, just because you don't know the names on the PGA Tour doesn't discredit the fields in the PGA Tour. They have a feeder system that kind of makes for that it's hard to stay in the top area of the PGA for so long because they are always feeding in new talent into the tour, and it's hard to be up there at the top. But right now, like, just for some context, Scottie Scheffler is still 2,000 FedEx Cup points ahead of Xander Schauffele. Like, it's not even a close race for the FedEx Cup. And as good as Schauffele's been, like, he's had a really nice season, but he's still 2,000 points away from Scottie Scheffler. In every ranking system, Scheffler's there at the top. So I do think, while he hasn't been able to solidify the majors, he has won signature events. And I think some of these like TPC type events, they're not majors, but the fields are freaking incredible, Nate. Like, he's still going out and busting up, in my opinion, the best golfers of the world. Like, yeah, sure, maybe Bryson's not there at all of them, but I'll push back a little bit. I think you said Bryson, these two are the best golfers in the world outside of Bryson. I think Colin Morikawa is a better golfer right now than Bryson DeChambeau. I think he's probably my third in the world right now. And I would even say, and we can maybe segue this into a conversation about the upcoming Olympics, because Wyndham Clark doesn't deserve to be on this.
No,
Olympic
he does
team
not.
at
No,
all.
he does not.
Colin Morikawa absolutely does. And I think the conversation was because of the recency bias of DeChambeau winning a major and coming out. I think Patrick Cantlay probably actually has a better case to be on the Olympic team than Bryson DeChambeau.
Don't disagree. I do not disagree.
I think those are, at least out of American golfers, it's Scheffler by quite a bit. Schauffele, who now has the major wins. I get it. It's going to be a bigger thing in legacy. I think end of the day, Scheffler will have more majors when his career's all said and done. He'll have more of those opportunities. But so I think it's those two. Morikawa's right there. I know in all the standings, Rory's still kind of in that third spot, but I don't see it with Rory really. And he seems to be kind of just sliding back more and more.
Yeah.
But then for American golfers, Cantlay's right there, like 6, 5, wherever he is. And then in almost every rating, even the ones that weigh live golf stuff, DeChambeau's still behind John Rahm, Patrick Cantlay, Ludwig Aubert. So I think a lot of it was made like Bryson's so polarizing. He's so popular on YouTube.
That's right.
Winning that major is huge. It's good for his brand. It's good for all that. But I don't think he's the third best golfer in the world right now.
Yeah, I think it's close. I think you saw just how difficult the conditions were for guys. The Open is not about how far you can hit the ball like the U.S. Open is.
It's not American style golf.
And like the PGA Championship is a lot about, the guys that can hit the ball the furthest. And that's just not the case in the Open. And, you saw it in real time. Him and I think I saw us through 23 combined holes. Him and Rory were 11 over. That's your local member guest numbers. So yeah, I like Bryson's game a lot. Whatever the off the course stuff is, I like his game. I think he's entertaining.
Talk about a grinder. We're talking about grinding half this episode. Like, there isn't a bigger one in golf than Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah.
And I got to give him credit. I've been a big hater. His move to live, I think, was insurance for maybe his game not ever getting back to where it was. I think both he and Brooks, he was dealing with some wrist issues. And for him to battle through that and then all the swing changes and bulking up, like, he really is a mad scientist. And for him to get back to this level, to even be in this conversation we're having, kudos to him. Like, that's hard work to get back to where he is playing right now. But probably even more so Colin Morikawa.
After where did he win the PGA? He won it at the place in San Francisco, Harding Park. After he won Harding Park, and then he won the Open, right? Is that what he won? He won an Open and a PGA, correct?
Or
two PGAs.
He won. He's got a Masters.
No.
He won PGA. No, he won PGA. He was he was third in Masters this year. He won a PGA Championship, an Open Championship in 2020 and 2021.
That's what I thought. Yes. Okay. So, I would love it if his game is back. I mean, he's such a great iron player. If not one of the best. I mean, I think right now Xander's the best iron player in the world. Morikawa is right behind him. Scheffler's right up there too. I mean, Scheffler's the
best iron player in the world.
He's the best player in the world. Yeah, it's fun to kind of look through the top five and listen. I mean, I'm still holding out hope. I mean, talk about a roller coaster, but Justin Thomas, the roller coaster open he had,
Oh my God.
I'd love. He's such an entertaining golfer. I would love for him to get back to being the player that I think everyone expected him to be early in his career, but continue being that guy. And then for me, I'm have been and always will be the biggest Jordan Spieth fan in the world. Would really like to see him find his game this winter.
This isn't the first time this conversation's come up here on this show, and I brought up Thomas and Spieth in this because, and when we were early starting out, we did a Spaces, and I forget what tournament it was, and we were talking about Morikawa and like how much he had fallen off, and then we kind of leaked into Thomas and Spieth, and I think sometimes as sports fans and people that talk about sports, we're so quick to have these knee-jerk reactions of like they're done. I think it happened to Brooks Koepka.
Yeah.
I think even Tony Finau has had some of that. And I think Finau's one of those guys that's like right on the verge of
Justin
coming back.
Rose,
yeah.
Adam Scott.
We write these guys off too soon. And we don't know all the stuff they're going through. Like Spieth's got this wrist thing that just he hasn't been able to fully heal. He hasn't gone through with the surgery. Like he probably needs to just take an off season here and get the surgery and get that worked out. Victor Hovland dipping from going from number 2 in the world to dipping, like big swing change. That could take a full like year and a half for him to get that swing change and get in the right spot. Spieth, like at any point he could come back. That one's a weird one for me with Spieth because I agree with you. Like I'm pulling for him all the time, but that just seems outside of the wrist injury. There's like a mental pile going. Like he knows how dominant he was for like a super brief, quick stretch right in the beginning of his career, and knows like what he's capable of, and he's just not playing to that. But these guys are still so young. Like at any point they can pop back off and run on a couple majors and do what Morikawa is doing right now.
Yeah. So, how old is Jordan Spieth? Jordan Spieth
he's got to be what, mid-30s?
Is he? He's 30.
Is he? God, he feels like he's been around forever.
30 years old.
So he's 30 years old. He's got plenty of time.
He's got so much time. He's got an insane amount of time. He was it doesn't say his birthday. Either way. I mean, and what? Justin Thomas is probably the same age?
I think they're right there. Yeah, I mean, they came up junior golf together.
Justin Thomas is 31.
Yeah.
I mean,
these guys have plenty of time. It's a young man's game, but I mean, a bunch of names you just listed have come. Dude, Rory still has time. Like people are always concerned about this legacy with Rory. Like Rory still has time to win some majors.
Justin Rose has been knocking on that. Justin Rose had an unbelievable season. He's 43. Yeah.
Right.
Can we talk about one more guy before we sign off?
Yes, and then we'll get going.
Billy Horschel. I want to talk about Billy Horschel.
Okay. He had I'm actually bummed he had to drop out this weekend with sickness because he's heating up.
He is one of my favorite golfers to watch. Talk about a grinder.
I was gonna say grinder is what comes
maybe I mean went through a pretty rough stretch last year where he missed a cut and I think shot 83, missed the cut and went up to the podium, took it on the chin. I mean, he brought himself to tears. I mean, he just was so lost mentally, emotionally exhausted, and to see him where he was then, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, to finishing second and playing really strong golf at during the within the in the midst of the most difficult conditions of the year. Great guy, fun player to watch, and my guy is got some serious swag. That cardigan, that Ralph Lauren cardigan was sexy.
Yeah, big fail by it's Ralph Lauren, right?
They
didn't have it listed for sale, that cardigan.
Yeah, I would have bought it.
How do you do that? How do you have a guy playing in something that's swaggy and not have it for sale available?
You can't wear a cardigan in the U.S. on a golf course. Like that's the only place you can wear a cardigan is in Europe.
Yeah. But talking about grinder, dude, that guy's like on the DP World Tour events. He's over. I think that's probably the biggest issue for a guy like Scottie Scheffler is he plays all these signature events. He grinds over here and he doesn't have a ton of that links golf experience, overseas golf experience.
Yeah,
And you've
that's
seen
right.
that with the US team when they travel to Europe. Like the US team doesn't fare well when they get over to Europe and they're not playing on those types of courses. And guys like Herschel that are out there grinding the DP World Tour and playing more of those things, they're going to show up in those types of events and kind of probably credits more to Xander Schauffele of how much his game travels. And excited here. That starts up. Olympics start up on the 2nd, I think. So we'll have some early morning golf. I think they tee off at like 3 a.m. for the first round stuff, but then a 7 a.m. tee time. And that'll go on for a couple of weeks. So we'll have some Olympic golf here coming up. 3M is going today. That's actually got some fun stuff happening. I can't. There's some of the younger names. Actually, my favorite swing on tour is playing in 3M right now. Jake Knapp, my absolute favorite swing.
Yeah, it is a pretty swing.
Dude, it's so powerful, but it looks so effortless. It's incredible. So, Nate, where can the people find you? And do you even want people to find you at this point?
No, I'm good with it. But like,
Yeah.
if you want to, it's right here for the people that are capable of watching. At Nate Geary Sports on Twitter. That's where the content is. And then obviously you can follow us over at Cover One Golf as well. That's where we'll be posting a lot of good content, especially coming up here. The Ganson Depew Invitational next week for me, Wednesday through Sunday, a 4-day event. I will be doing a lot of content on our journey to qualify for the championship flight this year. We tee off at 8 a.m. on Thursday morning, and hopefully I'll be bringing the A game because if I'm getting 10 strokes, I think we're gonna have a good chance of winning.
We'll be pulling for you, man. I'm excited to hear how that goes. Once your tournament season here slows down after that, and my kids get themselves back in
to school. Yeah.
We'll make some content. Go play your course a little bit. I can't wait to get back out there and give that another shot. Your course beat me up pretty good last year when I played.
It's a tough spot, man.
Yeah,
it's in great shape.
Excited to get back out there. Yeah, as Nate said, make sure you're following Cover One Golf. Make sure if you're here on YouTube, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Like us on wherever social medias, all that stuff's free. We're not doing this for the money. We just do this because we like to come out and talk golf. So help us out. It's free. It doesn't take any of your time. Comment, even if you think we're stupid, say that. Tell us in the mentions. We don't care. Tell us we're dumb and we don't know what we're doing. We suck at golf. It helps the algorithm. And we'll comment back to you. So appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for sticking with us here. And we are out.